Today I'm going to talk about my favorite game mechanism in Barenpark with my little bear, Walter. Barenpark is a tile placement game kind of in the vein of Patchwork and Cottage Garden and A Feast for Odin, and my mind loves those games. Like, it just makes me really, really happy. Like, one of my favorite abstract games is Blockus. And Blockus is, in a way, the opposite of all those games because you're trying to touch corners but not sides. It still has a similar element. It makes me feel good. So my favorite mechanism in Barenpark, basically you're acquiring these differently shaped Tetris-like tiles from a middle area, and you're placing them on these 4x4 grids. I'm hoping I'm getting that right. It could be 5x5. I think it's 4x4. And the game will end when a player has completed 4 of those 4x4 grids. The things that you get, like the tiles that you get and some other things that you can get in the game are acquired when you cover up certain icons on your little 4x4 grid. So if you cover up a certain icon, that icon might say, okay, you get to take this type of tile, and then on a future turn you can place that tile. One of those things that you can gain is another 4x4 grid, because you only start with one of those. And this, among other mechanisms in the game that I really like, that make me happy, I really, really enjoy this game, my favorite mechanism is that idea of adding to your existing grid and branching off of it as you wish. This is where a lot of really interesting decisions come into play, because you're not just gaining a grid, a 4x4 grid, you're deciding where to place it relative to your existing grid, and it becomes part of that tableau in a way. It's not a separate thing, it's part of your Barenpark. Which means that you can, the next time you place a tile, you can overlap, you can put that tile across both of your mats. Or even across 3 mats if you have 3 mats with overlapping squares where you can place these tiles. This adds a ton of interesting options as to like what's the best way to cover up a bunch of stuff all at once. What's the best way to complete a tile, because you get a bonus when you complete a tile. And so some people might end up with all 4 mats in a row. You might end up with a square grid. I ended up with one that was kind of like a Z almost. In the game that I played, and this is, as I think about playing the game again, I'm excited about it because of how that formation might change and when it might change. Do I early in the game, do I try to get some of those tiles, those mats, so I know when I'm building towards, or do I wait a little bit and go after some of the higher point tiles in the game before they're gone? The whole game has a race element to it, because you're trying to get higher point tiles, you're trying to achieve these objectives before other players. So yeah, it's a modular element to the game that I really, really enjoy. If you've played Barenpark, I'd love to hear your thoughts about your favorite mechanism in it. And if you have played other games where you are building, I guess tile building would apply to this, but if you're building your own thing, and I guess the unique element of this is that it's not like Castles of Magic and Ludwig, my favorite game. It's not like that where you're just placing tiles. What matters is what you're placing those tiles on top of, and that element itself is modular. That's the thing that I don't think I've seen in many other games. If you can think of another game that does that, where it's placing things on top of this other thing, and that thing on the bottom layer is changing throughout the game, I'd love to hear about that in the comments. Thanks.